These 10 rare signs prove you're too intelligent for the average mind. Intelligence is not how much you know, but how deeply you understand. Carl Jung once said that true intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas and still function with clarity, a sign of a mind that has transcended the ordinary. In today's video, we'll uncover 10 rare signs that prove you're not just smart, but profoundly aware, too intelligent for the average mind to easily comprehend. As you listen, reflect on how these traits show up in your daily life and how embracing them can lead to deeper happiness and self-mastery. Do you see yourself in these signs? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's explore the depths of spiritual wisdom together here on Spiritual Wisdom. 1. You question everything. You question everything not to rebel, but to understand. You've never been the kind of person who simply accepts what's given. Instead, you doubt, analyze, and verify. This deep hunger for truth is not just a sign of intelligence, it's a mark of spiritual awakening. You can sense when something doesn't add up, even when everyone else seems convinced. You can feel when words lack substance, when systems are built on illusion, and when people speak from fear instead of understanding. You're not satisfied with surface-level knowledge because your soul longs for something real, something deeper than the comfort of conformity. Most people stop thinking when they find an answer, but you keep thinking until you find the truth. Your curiosity is not random, it's sacred. It's the silent whisper of your higher self urging you to see beyond appearances. You've learned that real intelligence is not memorizing what others believe, but daring to see what others ignore. You observe, reflect, and ask questions that pierce through layers of conditioning and social hypnosis. This ability to discern is what sets you apart. It's why ordinary conversations often feel shallow, and why superficial explanations never satisfy you. You crave authenticity because your mind and spirit are aligned with truth, not trends. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom, where intelligence and intuition unite to reveal what lies beneath illusion. But the path of the thinker is not always easy. When you question everything, you sometimes stand alone. People may mistake your curiosity for arrogance or your discernment for cynicism. Yet what they don't understand is that your skepticism is not negativity, it's consciousness. You don't reject ideas to feel superior. You reject falsehood to stay free. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," and you know this firsthand. Every truth you uncover destroys a comforting lie. Every insight you gain separates you a little further from the crowd. Still, you keep going, because the light of awareness is worth more than the warmth of ignorance. Through questioning, you begin to see patterns everywhere. You notice how fear controls people, how ego hides behind morality, how manipulation dresses itself as kindness. You sense the hidden energy behind words, the emotional motives beneath decisions, the invisible structures shaping the world. And that awareness becomes your inner compass. It helps you navigate life with clarity while others wander in confusion. It helps you trust your intuition as much as your logic, blending intellect and spirituality into one clear perception. You understand that wisdom doesn't come from knowing everything, but from realizing how little you truly know and allowing that humility to open new doors of insight. The more you question, the freer you become. You begin to detach from illusions, status, approval, control and instead value inner peace, purpose, and authenticity. You no longer chase validation because you've learned that truth is its own reward. Each question becomes a key, unlocking another layer of awareness, guiding you closer to your essence. You start to see that life itself is a mystery meant to be lived, not solved. True intelligence, you realize, is not about superiority. It's about consciousness. It's about looking at reality without filters, about daring to ask why until the illusion falls away and only truth remains. And that more than any degree or title is what makes your mind too rare, too luminous, and too free for the average world to understand. Have you ever questioned everything around you, your beliefs, society, or even your own thoughts? If so, share one life-changing insight you've discovered in the comments below so others can grow with you. If not, comment. I will start questioning and take the first step toward true spiritual wisdom and awakening. 2. You get bored easily. You get bored easily because your mind is constantly seeking something deeper, something that challenges and expands it beyond the ordinary. Routine tasks feel like a slow death to your creativity because your intelligence isn't satisfied with repetition. It craves stimulation, meaning, and growth. You need variety the way others need comfort. This is not a weakness or impatience. It's the mark of a mind that hungers for evolution. As Carl Jung once said, the creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct. You are not merely thinking your way through life. You are playing with possibilities, exploring new territories of thought, and creating meaning where others see monotony. When you find yourself switching careers, hobbies, or passions, it's not because you're lost. It's because your curiosity is alive. Your inner voice keeps whispering that there's more to learn, more to experience, more to uncover. You are not content staying still, because stillness feels like decay to a spirit born to grow. In truth, your boredom is a messenger from your higher self, urging you to move toward greater awareness. Each time you feel the weight of monotony, it's your soul signaling that you've outgrown your current environment and it's time to evolve. This isn't chaos. It's a natural part of your spiritual growth. You are designed to explore, to seek, and to awaken through discovery. You sense when an experience has given you all it can, and once that lesson is absorbed, you instinctively reach for something new. That is the rhythm of intelligence aligned with spirituality, a constant movement between curiosity and understanding, expansion and integration. The danger only comes when you mistake boredom for emptiness, when you think there's something wrong with your inability to settle. The truth is, not everyone is meant to find satisfaction in routine. Some souls are meant to keep moving, to explore the edges of consciousness, and to turn that restless energy into creation. You are one of those souls, but this hunger for novelty can feel lonely. Others may call you inconsistent, ungrounded, or distracted because they don't understand that your restlessness is sacred. It's the spark of creation itself moving through you. The secret is to give that energy direction, to channel your curiosity into something meaningful. When you bring intention into your search for stimulation, every new idea becomes a step on your spiritual journey. You begin to see that the thrill of the unknown isn't about escaping boredom. It's about remembering who you are, an explorer of thought, a seeker of truth, a creator of new realities. Your mind seeks stimulation, but your soul seeks understanding. When these two unite, you find balance. You no longer chase newness just for excitement. You pursue it for growth. You stop running from boredom and start listening to what it's trying to tell you. Every restless thought becomes an invitation to look within, to awaken to a new dimension of your being. And in that awareness, boredom transforms into a powerful teacher. It shows you where your spirit no longer resonates, where your energy no longer flows freely. It points you back to alignment with your true nature. So when you feel uninspired or trapped by routine, remember that it's not a flaw, it's a spiritual signal. It means your consciousness is expanding faster than your environment can contain it. Follow that pull toward new experiences, but do it with awareness. Let curiosity be your compass and spirituality your anchor. Through that harmony, you'll find that your boredom was never the problem. It was always the beginning of your next awakening, a sacred reminder that you were never meant to live on the surface, but to dive endlessly into the depths of life's mystery. 3. You argue with yourself. You often find yourself caught in an invisible debate that no one else can hear. Inside your mind, ideas clash and collide as you analyze everything from multiple perspectives. You question your own reasoning, challenge your conclusions, and rarely take things at face value. This doesn't mean you're confused. It means you're awake. It means your mind operates on a higher level of awareness, where every thought is tested for truth. Carl Jung once said, "Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. But you think deeply. You wrestle with ideas because you understand that growth is born from contradiction, and wisdom is never found in blind certainty. Your inner arguments sharpen your logic and stretch your consciousness beyond the average mind. You look at every belief through both the lens of reason and the mirror of intuition, balancing intellect with soul. At times, this makes you tired mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, but it also refines you. Each internal discussion is like a fire that burns away falsehoods and leaves only clarity behind. It's how spiritual wisdom is born not from external knowledge, but from self-examination. You don't just think, you observe yourself thinking. That's what makes your mind rare, almost sacred. This habit of arguing with yourself reveals your devotion to truth over comfort. While others rush to conclusions, you linger in the question. You sit with uncertainty and use it as a teacher. Carl Jung believed that the pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. And that's exactly what you experience. You're not trying to win the argument. You're trying to understand the whole of it. You listen to both sides of your mind, the rational and the intuitive, and through this internal dialogue, you find balance between intellect and insight. Sometimes, this can feel like carrying a storm within you. The more intelligent and self-aware you become, the harder it is to rest in simple answers. But that's the price of awakening. The deeper your mind goes, the more it demands honesty. You begin to realize that truth isn't something you create, it's something you remember. Through every mental debate, you refine your perception, soften your ego, and grow closer to your authentic self. Your intelligence becomes a mirror that reflects not only knowledge, but consciousness itself. So when your thoughts spiral into long conversations within, don't see it as confusion or chaos. It's the natural rhythm of a rare mind, a mind that refuses to stay asleep. Each argument is a meditation in disguise, each doubt a doorway to deeper knowing. You're not lost. You're evolving. You're practicing the highest form of intelligence, self-dialogue. This is where thought transforms into awareness, where intellect meets spirituality, and where the teachings of Carl Jung come alive within you. Through this sacred debate, you don't just think you awaken. 4. You feel emotionally out of sync. You feel emotionally out of sync, not because you are distant or detached, but because you are deeply attuned to the unseen vibrations that most people never notice. You sense the subtle shifts in tone, the heaviness that lingers in a room, and the quiet pain behind someone's smile. It's as if your emotional radar is always on, picking up energies that others are blind to. This is not a flaw. It's a mark of spiritual awakening, a sign that your inner world has expanded beyond the average emotional range. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." You are beginning to live consciously, aware of the energies shaping human behavior, aware of how much emotion drives every interaction. But because you feel so much, you often carry what others suppress, and that can leave you exhausted, questioning why being around people sometimes feels like walking through noise that drowns your peace. You're not antisocial, you're selective. You no longer have patience for conversations without substance or connections without soul. Your sensitivity demands depth, your mind demands truth, and your spirit demands harmony. When the world rushes forward with chaos and distraction, you instinctively step back to recalibrate. This withdrawal is not rejection, it's recovery. You seek alignment, not attention, resonance, not recognition. You have learned that not every connection feeds the soul, and not every smile hides good intentions. In the language of spirituality, you are learning the art of energy discernment, knowing what to absorb, what to release, and what to walk away from. Those who experience this kind of spiritual sensitivity live in two realities at once: the external one that seems logical and predictable, and the inner one that whispers with intuition and emotional truth. You feel life not as a series of events, but as waves of vibration, each carrying meaning. This dual perception makes you both wise and weary, connected yet detached, deeply empathetic yet fiercely protective of your peace. You understand that emotional intelligence isn't just about managing feelings. It's about reading the unseen language of energy. Jung believed that true intelligence integrates both intellect and intuition, and that is exactly what you are doing, merging thought and feeling until they move as one current. When others misunderstand you, when they call you too quiet, too intense, or too sensitive, know that it's because they live in the shallow end while you are swimming in the depths. Your detachment is not apathy, it's awareness. You have learned that your empathy is a sacred gift, but it requires boundaries to remain powerful. Every emotion you feel is a compass pointing you toward alignment. Every moment of overwhelm is a reminder to ground yourself, to return to your center, to honor your emotional clarity instead of hiding it. This is not emotional confusion. It is emotional mastery in progress. To feel deeply in a world that numbs itself is an act of courage. To sense energy is to speak the language of the soul. You are not out of sync. You are simply resonating at a higher frequency than most. And as your awareness expands, you'll realize that your sensitivity is not meant to isolate you. but to awaken you, not to weaken your heart, but to strengthen your discernment. In that space of self-understanding, you begin to embody spiritual wisdom, learning that true intelligence is not about how much you think, but how deeply you feel, how clearly you see, and how gracefully you protect the energy that sustains your soul. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom if this message resonated with you. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss any video that nourishes your spiritual awakening and deepens your self-understanding. Type in the comments, "I choose emotional harmony and spiritual balance." 5. You struggle to relate. You struggle to relate because your mind operates on a completely different frequency. While most people speak in straight lines, your thoughts move in spirals layered, complex, and multidimensional. You don't just hear words, you absorb tone, energy, and hidden meaning. That's why conversations often feel hollow, as though you're playing a role in a play that no longer interests you. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." And that's exactly what you feel, the quiet ache of being surrounded yet unseen. You move through the world with a mind that connects ideas faster than others can express them. And this inner speed creates a gap that few can cross. You're not cold or detached. You simply crave authenticity in a world that thrives on surface interaction. You've noticed how often silence becomes your refuge, not because you dislike people, but because you prefer truth over noise. You want conversations that awaken the soul, not ones that drain your spirit. You yearn for moments that explore spirituality, purpose, and the mystery of being alive. But the modern world rarely makes room for that kind of depth. People rush, repeat, and react, while you reflect, analyze, and awaken. That contrast can make you feel like an observer rather than a participant, as if you're walking through a crowd of people asleep. You see patterns in behavior, cycles in emotions, energies in spaces, and this heightened awareness, though powerful, can be isolating. You don't just think, you sense. And that sensitivity, when unshared, can become both your strength and your solitude. At times, you might question whether your intelligence has become a burden. But what you're truly experiencing is the price of spiritual growth. The more awakened your consciousness becomes, the fewer people you can connect with easily. As you evolve, your energy refines, and your soul begins rejecting environments and conversations that no longer match your vibration. You start noticing how draining it feels to explain yourself to those who don't understand. And slowly, you stop trying. You withdraw, not in defeat, but in protection of your inner peace. This is not loneliness, it's recalibration. It's your spirit preparing you for alignment, for higher connections that will understand your silence as much as your speech. Still, there's a tenderness to this experience. When others dismiss your thoughts or misunderstand your emotions, it stings, not because you seek validation, but because you long to share the world that lives inside your mind. You want someone who feels energy the way you do, who reads between the lines and breathes meaning into every moment. Until then, you walk a sacred path few understand. But in this path, you begin to find beauty in solitude. You start realizing that isolation is not emptiness, it's space. Space for your soul to grow, for your mind to expand, for your intuition to lead. You begin embracing your role as both student and observer of life, understanding that spiritual wisdom is often born from the stillness that others fear. And one day, when your vibration has fully aligned, you'll meet others who mirror that same depth. Their presence will not overwhelm you, but ground you. Their silence will not be awkward, but comforting. Until then, you are being shaped by divine design, trained to rely on your own light. So, when you struggle to relate, remember this truth. Your difference is not a curse, it's a calling. You are here to see what others overlook, to feel what others numb, and to remind the world that intelligence without spirituality is empty. But intelligence fused with spiritual growth creates wisdom powerful enough to change lives. 6. You see patterns everywhere. You see patterns everywhere, as if your mind was designed to weave invisible threads between people, events, and ideas that others overlook. What seems like random coincidence to most becomes meaningful to you as a symbol, a sign, a hidden rhythm in the background of existence. You don't just see life, you read it. Every repeated number, every familiar phrase, every synchronicity feels like the universe whispering through coded messages only you can understand. Carl Jung once said, "Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see." This is not imagination, it's perception beyond logic, the deep intuitive knowing that life itself is structured with purpose and mystery. Your ability to recognize hidden patterns fuels your creativity and intelligence. You can walk into a room and immediately sense the emotional energy between people, detect the unspoken dynamics, and see how one small action might trigger an entire chain of consequences. You notice how human behavior follows cycles, how nature moves in rhythm, how even your thoughts seem to shape your external world. Spiritual wisdom calls this expanded awareness a gift of the awakened mind, a bridge between intuition and intellect. Yet, with this gift also comes the shadow, the endless thinking, the restless questioning, the sleepless nights when you try to make sense of everything. Because when you can see how the dots connect, it's hard to stop looking for more. But true understanding doesn't come from forcing, meaning it comes from flow. There is a fine balance between observation and surrender. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." The patterns you see outside are mirrors of your inner world. They reflect what your soul is trying to teach you, your fears, your desires, your evolution. When you stop chasing meaning and start feeling it, clarity arises on its own. That's when synchronicities stop being random events and start becoming confirmations that you're aligned with a greater design. To see patterns everywhere is not to be cursed, it is to be conscious. It means your mind is operating on a higher frequency, tuned to the subtle order that underlies chaos. You are the type of person who can sense divine intelligence in the smallest details. A conversation, a song lyric, a passing thought, and know it's not an accident. The challenge is to remain grounded while navigating these insights. Not every signal needs decoding. Some are meant to be lived, not analyzed. When you let go of the pressure to understand everything, you begin to experience life as a dance rather than a puzzle. So when the patterns appear again, and they will trust that they are guiding you, not haunting you. They are signs that your consciousness is expanding, that your intuition is alive and listening. You are not imagining things. You are awakening to the architecture of reality itself. And in this awareness, As Carl Jung and the essence of spiritual wisdom remind us, you begin to realize that intelligence is not just the ability to think, but the ability to see, to perceive the sacred geometry hidden within ordinary life. 7. You hate small talk. You hate small talk because your mind was never built for surfaces. It was designed to dive into the depths of meaning, emotion, and truth. Shallow conversations feel like sandpaper against your soul, grating, empty, and unfulfilling. You crave real dialogue, the kind that opens hidden doors within another person, the kind that makes you feel something ancient and alive stirring in your chest. This isn't arrogance, it's a sign of deep consciousness. As Carl Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You seek that reaction, authentic transformation, not meaningless chatter about weather, gossip, or the latest distraction. Yet beneath your dislike for small talk lies a truth. It's often the bridge that leads to the connection you truly desire. In spirituality and spiritual awakening, every word, no matter how trivial it seems, carries energy. Sometimes, a simple, "How are you?" is not a question. It's a cry for understanding, a signal from another soul longing to be seen. Learning to tolerate small talk isn't a sign of settling. It's an act of compassion. It's how you meet people where they are before you guide them into deeper waters. The wise know that awakening doesn't mean avoiding the shallow. It means finding depth in everything. A truly intelligent soul listens not to the surface of words, but to the vibration behind them, sensing fear, loneliness, or love hidden between lines that most ignore. The more spiritually awake you become, the more you realize that communication is energy exchange. Even meaningless conversations carry patterns of emotion and human need. The impatient mind wants to skip the small moments to reach the profound, but the awakened spirit knows that depth is not something you enter, it's something you bring. By infusing awareness, presence, and empathy into the simplest interactions, you transform them into sacred exchanges. This is what separates intellect from wisdom. Intelligence analyzes words. Awakened wisdom feels their essence. You begin to see that the problem was never small talk. It was unconsciousness. When people speak without awareness, it feels empty. But when you are fully present, even silence between sentences hums with life. The awakened man doesn't wait for meaningful conversation. He creates it. He turns an ordinary discussion into a mirror of the soul, not by forcing depth, but by radiating authenticity. Every question becomes a prayer, every answer a revelation. In that space, spirituality and intelligence merge, and even the most casual dialogue becomes a reflection of consciousness itself. So while small talk may never thrill you, you start to see its hidden purpose. It's the soft opening before the symphony begins, the gentle knock before the door to another soul opens. When you engage with awareness, small talk becomes connection, and connection becomes awakening. That's when you realize that spiritual intelligence is not about avoiding what feels shallow. It's about transforming it into something meaningful, something alive, something divine. 8. You have a dark sense of humor. Having a dark sense of humor doesn't mean you're cruel or detached. It means your soul has learned how to turn pain into wisdom. You see the absurdity and irony woven into life's suffering, and instead of collapsing under it, you transform it into laughter. This isn't insensitivity, it's emotional resilience. It's the quiet sign of someone who has walked through darkness and come out seeing both the tragedy and the comedy of life. Carl Jung once said, "The brighter the light, the darker the shadow." And your laughter at life's shadow side is proof of your inner maturity. You've seen enough of life to know that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and humor becomes your way of reclaiming your power. When you find humor in heartbreak, chaos, or human contradiction, it shows that your mind has evolved beyond ordinary perception. You're not mocking pain, you're mastering it. You understand that everyone carries wounds, but very few can look at those wounds and laugh without bitterness. That laughter is the mark of spiritual strength. It's the soul's way of saying, "I've been there, but I'm no longer defined by it." You've turned emotional scars into sacred symbols of growth. Through this lens, your humor becomes a form of spiritual awakening, showing that you can embrace life's messiness without losing your grace. Your ability to laugh at darkness also reveals a rare kind of intelligence, one that perceives paradox as truth. You know that life is both tragic and beautiful, cruel and compassionate, meaningless and divine. You see both sides and refuse to choose between them. That awareness itself is the essence of spiritual growth. You no longer try to escape the contradictions of existence. You accept them as part of the greater dance between light and shadow. Your laughter becomes the bridge that connects both worlds, the human and the divine. People who misunderstand you might think your humor is inappropriate or strange, but that's only because they haven't yet faced their own darkness. What they call dark is actually the result of your healing. You've learned to laugh at what once broke you, to see beauty in what once frightened you. That's not avoidance, it's transformation. Every time you find humor in pain, you're performing a kind of spiritual alchemy, turning sorrow into insight and wounds into wisdom. It's your way of saying that even the heaviest experiences can be softened by awareness and love. A dark sense of humor, then, is not about denial, but acceptance. It's a sign that you've reached a level of consciousness where you can look at suffering and still smile. It means you've stopped running from your shadow and started dancing with it. In doing so, you teach others that spirituality isn't about pretending everything is light. It's about learning to find light within the darkness. That is the power of your laughter. It's not mockery, it's mastery. It's not ignorance, it's illumination. And in that laughter lies the quiet wisdom of a soul that has truly awakened. 9. You overthink happiness. You often overthink happiness because your mind refuses to accept it at face value. Instead of simply feeling joy, you analyze its source, its duration, and its meaning, as though you're studying a fragile flame that might vanish at any moment. You sense that joy is temporary, that life constantly shifts between light and shadow. And so even in your happiest moments, a quiet awareness lingers the knowledge that nothing lasts forever. Carl Jung once said, "Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness." And that truth resonates deeply within you. Happiness, to you, isn't about constant laughter or an endless pursuit of pleasure. It's about understanding the balance between chaos and calm, gain and loss, joy and sorrow. Because you are attuned to life's impermanence, contentment sometimes feels like sand slipping through your fingers. Yet that very awareness gives birth to spiritual wisdom. You understand that happiness is not something to chase, but something to create, something woven into moments of meaning, purpose, and presence. You find satisfaction not in the temporary highs of comfort, but in the quiet fulfillment that comes from creation, reflection, and truth. When others rush to escape their emptiness with noise and distraction, you sit with silence and listen. You feel the subtle rhythm of life, and you know that true happiness whispers, and it never shouts. You see, intelligence and spiritual awakening often come with the gift of depth, and with that depth comes an awareness that pleasure alone cannot fill the soul. You no longer find joy in surface-level excitement or shallow validation. Instead, your heart yearns for alignment, for the harmony between your thoughts, actions, and spirit. The ordinary person seeks happiness outside themselves, but you've realized that happiness born from the external world fades quickly. Real joy is internal, born from living in truth, from expressing your authentic self, and from turning pain into purpose. When you analyze your happiness, it isn't because you're ungrateful. It's because you want to understand the architecture of meaning. You sense that life's beauty lies in contrast, that joy feels profound precisely because you've known sorrow. And in that understanding, you embody Carl Jung's teaching that wholeness is achieved not by rejecting pain, but by integrating it. You transform suffering into art, heartbreak into compassion, and solitude into strength. Every moment of reflection refines your consciousness and deepens your connection to life itself. You may feel misunderstood at times because your happiness doesn't look like everyone else's. You don't need constant stimulation or validation. You find peace in creation, in learning, in quiet moments where your mind and soul merge into awareness. That's where true happiness lives, not in excitement, but in clarity. And when you stop overanalyzing and start allowing yourself to feel, happiness becomes effortless again. You realize it was never lost, only buried beneath layers of thought. So when your mind starts to dissect joy, pause and breathe. Let yourself feel the simple miracle of being here alive, aware, and awake. You don't need to control happiness or explain it. You only need to experience it fully, as it is. Because happiness, in its truest form, isn't a goal to reach, it's the natural state of a soul at peace with both its light and its darkness. 10. You feel like an outsider. Even when surrounded by people who love you, there are moments when you feel strangely apart, as if you're watching life unfold rather than truly living it. This sense of separation is not a flaw, it's awareness. You are not disconnected from the world, you are simply perceiving it from a higher vantage point. Your solitude is not loneliness, but a sacred retreat, a place where your deep mind recharges and your spirit realigns. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." That is the mark of an awakened mind, one that senses what others cannot name, one that sees truth where most only see the surface. You've learned to observe human nature as though from a balcony above the crowd, recognizing the unspoken motives behind actions, the hidden sorrow behind smiles, the fear behind anger. This heightened perception can make you appear distant, yet it is compassion in its purest form. You no longer need to react to everything you see because you understand that every soul is finding its way at its own pace. This emotional distance is not detachment, but mastery. It allows you to remain peaceful while others lose themselves in chaos. You stand rooted in self-awareness while the world rushes by. And that, in essence, is spirituality in motion. There's a quiet power in your solitude, a depth that frightens shallow minds. You find nourishment not in noise, but in silence, not in crowds, but in contemplation. When others crave distraction, you seek meaning. When they chase pleasure, you search for purpose. Your spirit finds connection not in the many, but in the few, those rare souls whose depth mirrors your own. These are the moments when you realize that being an outsider is not a curse, but a compass, guiding you toward authenticity, truth, and inner peace. The spiritually awakened don't need the world to understand them. They only need to understand themselves. You are not meant to blend in with the ordinary because your consciousness has outgrown it. The very detachment you once resisted becomes your sanctuary. You no longer crave to be heard. You are content to simply know. You no longer chase validation. You carry quiet certainty within. This is the essence of spiritual awakening: to walk among others while no longer being lost among them, to love deeply yet remain free, to see life not as chaos, but as a profound mirror of the soul. You are not an outsider. You are evolution in human form, an awakened mind moving gracefully through a world still learning how to see. To embrace your unique path and honor the depth of your individuality, take a moment to declare it. Comment below. I embrace my difference as a reminder that being an outsider is often the mark of true spiritual awakening and uncommon intelligence. Your words may inspire another rare soul to finally feel seen. And that brings us to the end of today's journey through the mind of the rare and extraordinary. True intelligence isn't about how much you know, it's about how deeply you understand, how courageously you think, and how compassionately you live. If today's message spoke to your soul, don't forget to leave a like, share this video with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights inspired by Carl Jung and timeless truth. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos that continue to awaken your higher mind and deepen your spiritual wisdom. 6 surprising signs you're already healed. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Healing, then, is not about erasing your past. It's about transforming your relationship with it. Every scar, every heartbreak, every silent night you've survived has shaped the strength that now lives within you. In this video, we'll uncover 6 surprising signs that you're already healed, even if you haven't realized it yet. As you listen, reflect on your own journey, how far you've come, how much lighter your soul feels, and how your energy has quietly shifted. Which of these signs speaks most deeply to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's grow together on this path of spiritual wisdom and self-awakening. 1. You no longer chase closure. You've stopped chasing after closure because you finally understand that peace doesn't come from explanations. It comes from acceptance. You no longer wait for someone to apologize or justify why they hurt you, because deep down, you've realized that no amount of words can rewrite what already happened. Instead, you've found strength in silence and wisdom in surrender. You've learned that closure is not something someone gives you. It's something you build within yourself. The moment you stopped needing answers was the moment your healing began. The storm that once raged inside you has softened. not because the past disappeared, but because you've changed the way you hold it. You now see that people don't leave to break you. They leave to awaken you. Every departure carries a hidden lesson, and every ending is a doorway to a deeper understanding of who you are. When you no longer seek validation from those who walked away, it's because you've remembered your worth. Spirituality has taught you that life is not about getting everything explained. It's about allowing experiences to expand your soul. Pain was once your teacher, but now it's your proof that transformation is real. You've moved from questioning, why me, to understand, for me. And in that shift, something sacred happened. You began to rise beyond the need for closure, into the calm awareness that your spirit is whole, even when life feels incomplete. Through this spiritual awakening, you've learned that closure doesn't mean the story is over. It means you've reached peace without knowing how it ends. You stopped reopening old wounds just to see if they still hurt, and instead began nurturing the parts of you that chose to survive. The energy you once used to chase answers now fuels your growth. You've realized that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for your freedom. You no longer carry the weight of unfinished conversations, because silence itself has become your answer. This stillness, this gentle acceptance, is the quiet revolution of your healing, the sign that you've finally come home to yourself. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to affirm your growth. Comment below, "I no longer chase closure," and let the world know that you've stepped into peace and emotional freedom. 2. You no longer need to be understood. You've reached a level of spiritual growth where you no longer need to be understood, because you've released the old craving for validation. You've outgrown the urge to explain yourself to those who are determined to misunderstand you. There's a deep calm that rises within you when you realize that your worth is not up for negotiation. It is self-defined, rooted in truth, and untouched by the projections of others. You've learned that people don't see you as you are. They see you through the lens of their own unhealed pain, their fears, and their limitations. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And through this understanding, you've begun to see clearly that when others judge or reject you, they're often wrestling with parts of themselves they have yet to face. You no longer feel the need to justify your light to those who prefer their shadows. You no longer chase clarity from people who thrive in confusion. Instead, you've chosen peace over explanation, truth over performance, and alignment over approval. The misunderstandings that once tore at your spirit now pass through you like wind through open hands. You understand that energy is sacred, and not every misunderstanding deserves your defense. You've become selective with your words and intentional with your silence, because silence too can be a declaration of strength. You have realized that true spirituality is not about convincing the world. It's about staying centered in your own frequency, even when the world doesn't understand your song. There is power in this detachment, but it's not coldness, it's emotional maturity. It's the quiet recognition that not everyone has earned the right to know your depths. You've stopped performing for acceptance because you've accepted yourself fully. That's what healing truly looks like. It's no longer about fixing who you are. It's about embracing who you've become. you've learned that peace is far more precious than being right, and the need to be understood fades once you understand yourself deeply enough. The projections of others no longer trigger you because you see them for what they are, reflections of someone else's inner war, not yours. Now, you move through life with a softer strength, one that doesn't need to prove, defend, or persuade. You've made peace with being misunderstood because authenticity often threatens the comfort of those still living in illusion. You no longer dim your light just to make others feel safe in their shadows. You let your truth shine quietly, knowing that those meant for you will recognize your energy without needing an explanation. And when they don't, you no longer shrink. You simply keep walking, carrying your light like a lantern through the fog. That's what spiritual growth truly is. The art of knowing who you are so completely that misunderstanding no longer wounds you. It refines you. And when you reach that point, you realize healing was never about changing who you are. It was about remembering that you were whole all along. If you're ready to rise above the need for validation, comment, "I'm at peace" below. Your reflection helps us grow together in this journey of healing and spiritual wisdom. 3. You stop romanticizing the past. You know you've reached a deep level of healing when you can look back at your past without romanticizing it, without wishing to return to it, without that aching sense of loss that once colored every memory. The past stops being a wound and becomes a wise teacher. You can finally see everything that happened, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the disappointments, not as punishments, but as lessons that shaped your awakening. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what you've done. You've brought light to your hidden patterns, recognized the cycles that kept repeating, and chosen to step out of them with awareness. What once had control over you no longer defines you, because through spiritual wisdom, you've transformed what was once pain into power. There was a time when nostalgia felt like comfort, when you replayed old moments and wondered if life would ever feel the same again. But now you understand that what you were truly missing was not the past itself, but the version of you who hadn't yet learned what you know today. The longing fades when you realize that you no longer need to go back because you've integrated the lesson and carried its wisdom forward. You've stopped trying to fix what is gone or idealize what once was, and instead, you honor the meaning it brought. This shift is profound. It's when the unconscious no longer controls your choices, because you've met yourself fully in the mirror of experience. Healing isn't about forgetting or pretending the past never happened. It's about seeing it clearly, without judgment or illusion. You stop asking why life hurts you and start understanding how life shaped you. You can now visit those memories like old photographs, appreciating them, but not wanting to live in them. You can reflect without regret, love without attachment, and remember without pain. The moments that once broke, you have now become the roots of your resilience. You've turned your suffering into wisdom, your confusion into clarity, your longing into peace. As Jung believed, transformation happens the moment we stop fighting our shadows and begin to integrate them. And that's where you are no longer trapped in the emotional gravity of what was, but free to exist in the lightness of what is. To stop romanticizing the past is to reclaim your energy from everything that once drained it. You no longer chase closure from others because you've given it to yourself. The past no longer whispers, "Come back," because your soul has moved forward with grace. And in this quiet strength, you realize healing didn't come with fanfare. It came in your silence, your acceptance, your ability to look back and smile. That's the real power of spiritual wisdom, to remember everything and still feel peace. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue uncovering the wisdom behind healing and moving beyond the past together. 4. Solitude feels like home. Silence no longer feels like emptiness. It feels like peace. When you reach this stage of your spiritual awakening, solitude stops being a punishment and becomes a sacred sanctuary. The quiet no longer threatens you because you've learned to face your shadow without fear. You've met the darker corners of your mind with compassion instead of resistance, realizing that every part of you, both the light and the dark, belongs to the same wholeness. In this state, solitude becomes self-connection, not loneliness. It's where you stop searching for approval, stop craving noise to fill the void, and start understanding that healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives in whispers. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And in your silence, you've awakened. You've turned inward and discovered that the parts of you you once ran from were never enemies. They were forgotten fragments of your soul waiting to be embraced. You begin to see that wholeness is not about becoming perfect, but about accepting yourself as you are, unfiltered and unmasked. You no longer measure your worth by how others see you, because solitude teaches you that peace is an inside job. The world's noise fades into the background, and what once felt like unbearable stillness now feels like coming home to yourself. You notice that in this calm, your mind clears, your intuition sharpens, and your heart becomes your compass. You understand that in spirituality, healing isn't about escaping pain, but transforming your relationship with it. The same silence that once amplified your wounds now becomes the medicine that soothes them. You stop running from the darkness because you realize that the light was hidden inside it all along. You begin to cherish moments of stillness the way one cherishes rare treasures. You sit with your thoughts and find that they no longer control you. They simply pass through you like clouds across a vast sky. There is no more battle between who you are and who you think you should be. You realize that solitude isn't about isolation. It's about integration. You no longer need to prove anything or fix everything. You understand that healing is not the absence of pain, but the transformation of it into wisdom. You no longer chase people, validation, or noise to feel alive. Instead, you connect with the divine rhythm that exists within your own being. You breathe differently, speak with more purpose, and walk through life with quiet confidence. You start to see everything through softer eyes. You forgive more easily, listen more deeply, and love without expectation. The silence that once felt heavy now holds you like an old friend. It whispers truths that no external voice could ever teach, that you are enough, that your soul is whole, and that you are never truly lost. In this state, you don't need to explain your peace or justify your detachment, because you finally understand that solitude is not a void to be filled, but a space to be honored. Carl Jung believed that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And now you understand why. True healing happens when you stop running from the parts of yourself you once feared and learn to sit beside them with love. That's when silence feels like home, not because the noise is gone, but because you've made peace with it within. Did this message resonate with you? If solitude now feels like home, comment below, "I am at peace within," to affirm your healing and inspire others on their own journey of spiritual wisdom. 5. You respond instead of react. You know you've reached a profound stage of spirituality and spiritual growth when you no longer react impulsively, but respond with calm awareness. This shift is not about suppressing emotions. It's about understanding them, holding space for them, and allowing them to pass through without destroying your peace. You've developed emotional maturity, the kind that only comes through deep inner work and honest self-reflection. The pause between what you feel and what you choose to do has become your power, a quiet declaration that your emotions no longer rule you, you rule them. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Now, you are no longer a slave to old patterns. You've learned to notice your triggers, to observe pain without becoming it, and to allow emotions to exist without letting them drive your decisions. When someone offends you, instead of reacting with anger or defense, you stop, you breathe, and you witness the situation from a higher state of awareness. You see their behavior not as a personal attack, but as a reflection of their own wounds. You understand that peace does not mean the absence of chaos, but the mastery of stillness within it. That inner stillness is your proof of healing. It is the moment you realize that other people's energy no longer dictates your mood, and external chaos no longer shakes your center. You've discovered the sacred pause between emotion and action, and in that space lies freedom. This is what integration feels like, the merging of light and shadow, of instinct and wisdom. You no longer see emotions as enemies to be fought, but as sacred signals guiding you toward growth. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, compassion over ego, and presence over impulse, you embody a higher form of consciousness. You become the observer, not the reactor. You realize that emotional control is not about being cold or detached. It's about being so in tune with your soul that nothing outside of you can disturb your inner harmony. Others notice this change. They feel your calm presence, the way your energy speaks louder than your words. You no longer enter conversations to prove yourself, but to share your truth gently, with strength and serenity. The more you respond instead of react, the more aligned you become with your highest self. Each pause becomes a prayer. Each deep breath, a reminder that healing isn't about forgetting the past, but transforming the way it lives inside you. You no longer seek validation through confrontation because peace has become your identity. When conflict arises, you no longer rush to defend or attack. You choose understanding, and that choice reveals the depth of your transformation. The space between emotion and action is no longer empty. It is sacred. It's where your spirit whispers, where your wisdom awakens, and where your true healing reveals itself. This ability to respond with grace, awareness, and presence is not just emotional maturity. It is spiritual mastery. the ultimate sign that you have already healed more than you realize. Leave your like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. If you know you've reached the point where you respond instead of react, type in the comments, "I choose peace over chaos." 6. You create instead of escape. When pain no longer sends you running from yourself, but instead becomes the spark that fuels your creativity, you have reached a sacred stage of inner healing that Carl Jung, in his Spiritual Wisdom, called individuation, the soul's process of becoming whole. You stop escaping and start creating. You begin to express instead of suppress, allowing your emotions to move through you rather than burying them beneath distractions. The wounds that once silenced you now whisper inspiration. You turn your scars into symbols, your sorrow into stories, your pain into purpose. You realize that healing is not about erasing what hurt you, but transforming it into something meaningful, something that speaks truth. As your awareness deepens, creation becomes your natural response to life. You no longer crave to be rescued from pain because you've learned that pain itself can become the sculptor of your spirit. Each time you choose to create instead of escape, you reclaim a lost part of yourself. You write, sing, paint, build, teach, or simply live with a new kind of depth, one that carries compassion for others who still wander in the dark. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." You now understand what that means. Every creative act is a conversation between your darkness and your light, a bridge between the fragmented self and the whole. You start to see beauty, even in what once broke you. The anger that once consumed you becomes fuel for passion. The sadness that drowned you turns into empathy. The silence you once feared becomes the stillness where inspiration is born. You begin to live as an artist of your own soul, turning ordinary experiences into moments of reflection and revelation. And slowly, without even realizing it, your life becomes your greatest masterpiece, painted not with perfection, but with honesty. In this space, creativity is no longer about performance or applause. It becomes your way of praying. Every word you write, every action you take, becomes an offering to existence. Through this, you realize that emotions are not meant to be caged. They are energy, sacred and alive. When directed with consciousness, they become powerful tools for transformation. You no longer resist the waves of emotion. You surf them with grace. And in doing so, you awaken something ancient within the soul's capacity to turn chaos into order, pain into power, and suffering into wisdom. Through the lens of Carl Jung's Spiritual Wisdom, this is the true sign that you are already healed. Your pain no longer controls you. It creates through you. You no longer fear what you feel because you have learned to channel it into art, meaning, and purpose. You are no longer a victim of your story. You are its author. You've stopped trying to return to who you were before the hurt, because now you see that every tear, every scar, every heartbreak was shaping you into someone capable of deeper love and understanding. This is what it means to heal, to create from the ashes, to speak where you once stayed silent, to live with open hands and an open heart, allowing life to move through you as the ultimate act of creation. To affirm your healing and the power to create rather than escape, speak it into existence. Comment below, "I create from peace, not pain," to declare your transformation. and remind others that true healing is not about avoiding life, but shaping it with intention, courage, and love. True healing, as Carl Jung taught, is not a destination, but a transformation, a quiet evolution of the soul. It's when peace replaces the need for closure, when solitude feels like home, and when you create from your pain instead of escaping it. Healing doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it looks like calm mornings, gentle boundaries, and love that no longer hurts. So tonight, take a deep breath and honor how far you've come, because you've already healed more than you realize. Which of these signs resonated most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Spiritual Wisdom for more insights to help you grow in peace, strength, and self-awareness every day.